Good afternoon, and welcome to the ceremony to honor 3 living treasures. This ceremony was originally scheduled for April of 2020, but as you all know, a global pandemic prevented that from happening. So today we have a much smaller private ceremony planned to abide by all the safety measures, and we are so pleased that we can finally take the time to honor these people and thank all of you who were able to come today. There are a lot of people who couldn't be here today because of the COVID restrictions or because they had changes in their plans, and we hope they get an opportunity to watch the ceremony online. It will be posted on the Living Treasures website soon. My name is Kyle Wheeler, and I'm the current chair of the board of the Living Treasures. I would like to acknowledge the other board members present. They are listed on the back of your program, and ask those who are here today to please stand for a minute. Okay, several of them are standing already, and okay, good. And as all of you know, because we probably all do volunteer work, it takes a lot of volunteers to make almost anything happen. The board would like to dedicate this ceremony to the memory of Jim Gautier, who was the photographer of the Living Treasures for 20 years. He had some health problems that prevented him from taking the photos you see today, so he was training Bob Thompson to take over. But Bob and his wife decided to move away because they had new grandchildren, and so he resigned from the board. And Jim, whose health was improving, was looking forward to resuming his volunteer work as our photographer into the future. Unfortunately, he took a fall in the spring and died of complications a few weeks later. We truly miss him and his kind, gentle nature. We're so grateful to have Jim O'Donnell, who stepped in to take the photographs that you see here today, the ones up here. We are also grateful to all the people who make this ceremony happen, especially Bernadette Loretzen, Executive Director of the Senior Centers, and her staff, and it's because of them that we know exactly what we're supposed to be doing with regard to hand sanitizers and masks and all of that. And we want to thank Jean Gindreau, who films the ceremonies from PAC 8 and makes them available to us. Okay. So today we're honoring 3 quiet, dedicated people who have served the community without any fanfare. Every community depends on the time and effort of volunteers, and I hope that some of you who have known these people over the years will have some anecdotes that you might want to share with us today. I never met any of these people before interviewing them in early 2020. They have all been so gracious about the fact that we had to cancel last year's ceremony and that things have been so up in the air since then. We're going to start with Linda Burns. Linda and Don Burns moved to Los Alamos in December of 1989. It took Linda a while to find the right fit for herself regarding volunteer work. But when she saw a notice about help needed with food distribution, she thought that was something she could do. She started working with Al Zawerka and Eunice Larson and has been involved with what became LA Cares until just recently when she resigned from the board. Her friend June Gladney wrote, "She is like a geode. At first you don't really know much about her because of her quiet and unassuming ways. She doesn't really talk much about all that she does, and only very slowly does the scope of the story unfold. As it does, however, Linda is revealed as having the same sparkling, wonderful core that one would find in that geode. Once revealed, it is something very special to see. She is dedicated to the people who live with food insecurity. Yes, even here in Los Alamos. During the pandemic, I thought of Linda every time I drove by the Methodist Church and saw all the cars lined up to get boxes of food. I didn't know if that was LA Cares or a mix of providers, but I thought of Linda and how pressing the need can be and how generously she provided her time over many years. I know there are several of you who know Linda much better than I do, so I would like to invite those of you who want to share something about her to come to the front and take a seat on one of these chairs so the process will move smoothly. We also need to let you know that you should take your mask off while you're speaking and then speak directly into, there's a little microphone in here and then this microphone in order for it to be picked up for the video that's being recorded and for the people in the room who need to hear. So you can remove your mask while you're speaking, but then put it on. And then if anybody needs water, like I do right now, we have some up here, but there's little cups upstairs by the water fountain. I think that's right, Bernadette? Yes, she's nodding. Okay, so let us know if anybody's having a problem and they need some water, or you need to do something about your mask for a minute or two. So if anybody would like to speak on about something they want to share about Linda, please come forward. Come up now. You can introduce yourself, okay? And then here's the other little mic, so you need to stand kind of close to this.
Okay.
Okay?
Technical problems, always. So I've worked with Linda for about 17 years on the LA Cares board. It was already LA Cares when I joined. And all 17 years, I don't think she ever got angry because I couldn't find something. Since she was the secretary, we had to have various reports and things that somehow always get lost in my desk. And I think that we were so blessed to have Linda on the board. She did anything you asked her to. Like every month she would buy the bread in White Rock, drove it all the way up here from White Rock, and delivered it so we could add that to our distribution. I am very pleased to welcome Linda into the Fellowship of Living Treasures.
Thank you, Rosemary. Anybody else care to say anything? Okay. Good. Here's the little microphone, so you have to stand.
Okay.
Speak.
I'm basically a newcomer to LA Cares compared to the volunteers that have been here for years and years. But I wanted to also thank Linda for all her years of dedication. Like they said, she was part of LA Cares before it was LA Cares. It was Homeless Services of Los Alamos. And she has provided so much to LA Cares over the years as our secretary. She doesn't just write thank you notes, she writes a thank you letter for every single donation. And if you have donated, you've been the recipient of one of her fabulous thank you letters. We're gonna miss her, but she has joined the ranks of emeritus and passed on the duties of secretary, but it took 4 people to take over her duties. So we are so pleased that Linda's being recognized and that we'll miss her, but we're going to keep her around as long as we can. Thank you.
Anybody else like to make a comment or two? Okay, in that case, I'd like to ask Linda to come forward and receive her award, and if you want to make a few remarks.
If they ever happen again, you can do that. And we also have your certificate. So there's a certificate. And you get Would you like to make a few comments? Okay, that's up to you. Here's a little mic that goes to the video. I'd just like to say that. Can you hold it up a little closer? Don was by my side all 26 years that I was with LA Cares. He supported me. He worked with me. He encouraged me. He listened to me. Of course, he was totally deaf. He had an advantage, but we pretended. He wanted this celebration for me. He wanted this to be my recognition. It's as much for him as it is for me. And I'm just sorry that he didn't live long enough to see this come to fruition. Thank you.
When I interviewed Don Casperson, he told me he came to Los Alamos as a graduate student in the 1970s and then retired in 2008, and then got involved with Kiwanis Club. But the more we talked, the more I learned about some of the other things he did during those years. And I think one of the best ways I can start this is by reading a statement from Ben Crane that he sent to me a few weeks ago. He had planned to be here in person when we were going to do the ceremony in April last year, but he couldn't come this year. So this is a statement from Ben Crane. Don was a graduate student in physics with my father at Yale. So when I was born, he was the first person other than my parents to visit me. Thus, it is no exaggeration to say I've known Don my entire life. Both Don and my father came to Los Alamos to finish their graduate school experiments in 1973. My mother and I followed them shortly afterward, and my two younger siblings were born in Los Alamos. While I was growing up, Don was essentially a member of our family and was present at virtually every birthday and holiday gathering that I remember, as well as many of the times in between. Although Don has lived in Los Alamos since 1973, I left to go to college when I graduated from high school in 1990. I returned after that for a couple summers and many brief visits, including one earlier this year. My father became ill from multiple sclerosis in 1980. Involvement with the family was always important to my dad, but his illness limited the types of activities he could participate in. Because of my father's illness, I became frustrated with our limited understanding of human disease and our ability to treat it. When I was in 6th grade in 1984, I wanted to do a science project comparing the reaction time of people with multiple sclerosis to healthy controls. To do this, I needed to build a device to measure reaction time. Don helped me design and build an electronic circuit that would do this as well as an enclosure. I then tested several people in town and put together a science project that did well and took me to the state science fair. As I look back on this project, I can see how it built the foundation for my later career, which has led me to become a tenured professor at the University of Rochester. During that same period of my life, I recall getting interested in radio-controlled model airplanes. I built these at both my own house and Don's, and frequently traveled with Don to the airfield outside Santa Fe, where we learned to fly them. During this period, there were many crashes and repairs, as well as several different types of models built, including planes, cars, boats, a glider, and even a helicopter. Growing up, I would see Don almost every day. By the mid-1980s, my father's illness progressed to the point that he could no longer drive safely. Don worked near my dad, so to get him to work, Don would pick him up each morning and drive him home that evening. When I went to college in San Diego, it was impossible for my dad to come out because of his illness, and difficult for my mother to get away and find someone else to care for him. At some transitions to the start or end of the school year, Don would come out to help me move in or out of the dorms. Every time I've returned to Los Alamos, I have included a visit to Don, including my most recent visit last month. That said, it can be difficult to catch him at home due to his extensive community involvement. Rather than engaging in typical retirement pursuits, the hours he spends working, or rather volunteering, have expanded over the years. He is active in the Kiwanis, the Associated Key Club, the high school graduation night, runs almost single-handedly, it seems, the Saturday night youth skating program, is active in the United Methodist Church, including running the sound for almost every service and event, and has done an annual summer education program for students interested in astronomy. Since I no longer live in Los Alamos, I'm sure I'm missing a lot of what he has done and haven't seen many of the positive influences that he has had on others. I wish I could be here today. I've long recognized Don as a living treasure of Los Alamos, and I am glad he now has the official recognition as such. There's also another statement about Don that I'd like to ask Bernadette to come and read.
I am reading this on behalf of somebody who couldn't be here today. It says, I have known Don Casperson for several years since he joined the Kiwanis Club. Don has spearheaded the formation of and the successful nurturing of service clubs consisting of students in all of the Los Alamos elementary schools, as well as working with the High School Key Club, a service club affiliated with Kiwanis. I have never known Don to turn down any requests for help when asked. A little known fact about Don is his fantastic collection of hand calculators. Some date back to the beginning of their existence. All of them are very interesting. Another facet of Don's life that I have discovered is his knowledge and knowledge of and appreciation of good wine. Don is truly a living treasure of Los Alamos, and I am proud to call him a friend. Ann Hayes. And I would just like to add to that, many years ago, about 15 really, we started a program with the schools called Cookies and Conversation. It's an intergenerational program where we bring seniors and either high school or middle school students together, usually for lunch and cookies and simply just conversation. And Don has been a part of that program for many, many years. And one of the things that I love best about this community is I happen to know that Don was on a plane, and the lady he was sitting beside, he said, there's this great program that I get to do. It's called Cookies and Conversation. And she said, would that one be run by Bernadette Lauritsen? And she was not from Los Alamos, so what a small world it is. It is beautiful to see you all here today. This is the most people we've had in the building since we closed 18 months ago. Thank you for coming.
Now I have to get back to where I was. Can be a little difficult sometimes. Now I'd like to invite others of you who know Dawn to come forward and fill these chairs and share something about Dawn. And try to remember, if you can, to please introduce yourself and to speak into the mic, which is, there's a mic right here and this one too. You can come on up and have the other people fill the chairs.
Do I need to turn this?
It's already on, it's already on. And here's the other microphone.
Hi, my name is Sharon Allen, and I am amazed at the things I just learned about Don Casperson that I didn't know before. I loved it. Anyway, I've worked with Don in the Kiwanis Club, working with the kids in the K-Kids program, the Builders Club program, and I have never met a man who is more supportive and who says yes to everything that you ask him. He is generous, he is kind, he really truly loves kids, and I have just thoroughly enjoyed working with him through Kiwanis, and I look forward to doing it more in the future because now I'm retired as a teacher, and he's been extremely supportive of the program that I'm really involved in called the African Library Project. And all I can say is thanks, Don. You're a great guy, and I'm glad you're being honored in this way because he sure deserves it. Thank you.
This is the other little microphone.
I'm Carla Crane, the mother of Ben Crane. Just wrote that tribute to Don. And I first met Don in the summer of '69. That was 52 years ago. And he was a first-year graduate student at Yale. My husband, Tom, was a second-year graduate student. And we have known him all those years. He's been a part of our family. And long thought that he was a living treasure, certainly to our family. So I'm so pleased that he is being recognized by the community for all of the work he's done for so many in the community. And of course, you know, there's just not enough that we can say about him, but I think a lot of people have a lot to say, so I just wanted to be sure you knew that my family definitely appreciates everything he's done.
Your son Ben is amazing too. Hi, Lori. The little mic is right in there.
I'm Maury Pongratz, and my wife Cheryl expressed her regret that she could not be here. You know, Carla did not mention that Don babysits her cats, which, you know, it got to be a saint to do that, right? I'll be brief. There's a country song that says, "My heroes have always been cowboys. My heroes have always been those who mentor young people." And Don Casperson is right up there at the top. Way to go, Don.
Thank you, Lori. I'm Dennis Gill. I've had the privilege of being a personal friend of Don's for many, many years. And I was prepared to tell you about all the things Don has done, but that's been covered pretty well. But I would say that Don is probably one of the most giving persons I've ever known. He just is always in there doing something for somebody. But in recent years, being the last 2 or 3 decades, he has concentrated on young people and kids. And he is known as Mr. Don, and his cookies are famous. And he is just such a mentor and a role model for kids. Thank you, Don.
I think I learned from Don that you were the person, Dennis, who got him involved in Kiwanis. Is that right? So we are very grateful to you too. Would you like to make a remark? Yes. Please come forward. Here you go. And here's a little microphone.
I'm Gill Little, and the Methodist Church just couldn't operate without Don. I just think preachers aren't nearly as important as Don. But I just wanted to cite one thing I saw after the time that COVID started, and Don has always been there for all the songs, for all the everything that we've done in the church. But there was a little boy who had been in after-school program, and his mother came running back, and she was frantic because he hadn't brought his backpack with him. And Don was busy running around covering I don't know how many things at the time, and he went back and got the backpack and brought it out to the lady so that the little boy could have his backpack. And he was just always so incredible with all the children, and I saw it in the church, not so much in the community, but all the things he has done have made such an impact on so many people and so many young people.
Well, if there's nobody else who would like to make a comment, Don, would you mind please coming forward? So what the Living Treasures get is a medallion, and I think I saw someone with, yeah, Maury has on one of the medallions, and those are your, oh yes, and there's another medallion, John, right? And that gets you a free lunch if we ever go back to having a lunch at the senior center, and the Living Treasures Board will serve them. And so we hope we can resume that one of these days soon. So this is your key to the free lunch.
Wow, okay.
Let's see.
Thank you.
And then you also get a certificate and a copy of this picture.
Oh, fantastic.
Great.
All right.
And would you like to make a few
Sure,
remarks?
just a couple of things I'd like to say. Thank you. Okay. Wow, thank you very much. I think you heard there was a common theme with all of these people talking about me, and had to do with kids. I really enjoy working with kids. K-Kids, we now have 4 K-Kids clubs run by Kiwanis, or sponsored by Kiwanis, out of 5 elementary schools. I think that's terrific. Our newest one is Pinion School, not even quite chartered yet, but they participated in the homecoming parade. I've also worked with the Builders Club at the middle school and Key Club at the high school with Maury, and it's just amazing to see how these kids are all interested in community service, and I hope they will carry on with the torch. Thank you.
Okay, Last but not least is Lois Edelman. Before I met Lois, I was a little bit nervous. I knew from my own experience and from reading the nomination package submitted to the board that for many years she had been the behind-the-scenes wrangler of the county fair. And those of you who know anything about the fair and the rodeo can probably imagine the effort it takes to recruit the volunteers needed to set up the many exhibits, often in separate buildings, and to recruit judges. Anything necessary to make the fair run smoothly, Lois knows how to do it. Her humor is evident in much of what she says. And now that she is in her 90s, she has slowed down a bit. But she's just an amazing person. And I've communicated a lot with her daughter ever since all this started. And I'm very impressed that people were telling us things like the county fair would never happen without Lois. And I'm just amazed at all the things that you did for such a long time. And she also teaches piano, and she does all kinds of stuff. And she's still busy doing it all. And I just, this is such a giving community, and it's because of all the people like Lois and Linda and Dawn that it is. So what I'd like to do is invite people. Like I said, I was kind of intimidated when I first met her. But she put me at ease right away because she has a lovely sense of humor. And I know that, all of this stuff with COVID and everything else hasn't been easy for anybody. But she's just had the best attitude whenever I talk to her and so forth. But I never really have gotten to know her very well, so I'm hoping that some of you who do know her better will come up and speak about her. And I would also like to say that I did hear from Lana Schulte, who was very sorry that she couldn't be here today. She used to be in the county extension office, and I know she worked with Lois quite a bit. And she told me she sent me a statement to my email, and I looked everywhere and I couldn't find it. So, maybe that filter that keeps you from getting some of those emails, it just messed it up. But she just wanted to tell you how glad she is that you're being recognized today. So anybody who'd like to make a comment, please come up. And if there's many of you, go ahead and fill these chairs. And then you're her daughter, Lori. And come on up here, Lori. Yeah. And thank you. And this is where the little mic is.
Gotcha. Hi, I'm Lori Pettit. I know Lois as Mom, and actually a lot of my friends call her Mom. She's taught piano lessons since I can remember. She's run the fair since I can remember. Helped my brothers out with Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and me with 4-H and Girl Scouts, and teaching Sunday school and playing the organ at church. And Sunday school, you might think, yeah, big deal, but she taught my class, which it's monumental. So she's pretty much amazing, and any kids that come back, even if they've been gone for 20, 30 years, they'll run up and hug her. She's just a pretty amazing person. With her piano students, she certainly has a way of reaching kids that might have a little bit of trouble learning. She's taught all kinds of kids. Some have gone on to do some pretty amazing things. I know at least one that went to Juilliard. But she just says, I just taught myself. I really am not a true piano teacher, but the evidence would say different. She's also one of the last of the few that have the art of writing a letter or sending a card. And I know that there are literally probably hundreds and thousands of people that have received a card from my mom at important times in their lives, celebrating birthdays or going through a tough time, she just reaches out to everybody. And I also want to thank all of the folks who worked to get her nominated. It's actually been several years that she was nominated, and I really appreciate working with all of you. And I guess a shout out to Paula, who went to be with the Lord just earlier this year. She was tireless in giving my mom this award. Thank you to all of you.
So I'm Bob Mclennan Jr. And you know, they say little good things come in little packages, but don't tell her she's little. She and my mom were great friends. And one of the things I've always appreciated was hearing from my mom her words of wisdom, and from her, my mom's words of wisdom, and things that truly, you know, bring back the joy of childhood. And because I grew up here too. And when we came back, she just treated me like family. I'd have to reiterate the part about her writing. So many times in my family's lives, we've gotten cards from her that just, well, that's just great. So anyway, just what a dynamo. She's done so much for so many people. Her memory is better than anybody else's I've ever met. Not sure she remembers correctly on everything, but I'm not going to argue. So anyway, we are so proud that you remember us and you're part of our family, and we love you so much.
I'm Heather McClennan, and I have not known Lois my entire life like my husband has, but about more than half of it. The one thing I wanted to mention, because it is so special to me and it's just always been on my heart with Lois, she, as we've said several times, is a piano teacher. I actually took lessons from her when our son was taking lessons from her. She charges $5 a lesson. And the reason Lois charges $5 a lesson is because when she was a child, her parents could not afford piano lessons. So she is a self-taught, wonderful piano and organ player, and she's played at our church for years. But she wants to make sure that any child who wants to learn to play piano can learn to play piano. And I just think that is one of the most special things about her.
My name is Julie Boltice, and I also know Lois as a piano teacher. I believe I met her 12 years ago when my children started taking lessons. And yes, it just blew me away that Lois was so concerned that every child who wanted to learn could learn. And I thought that was just such a beautiful thing, and so many people did take advantage of that. She encouraged me to take lessons, and she never got mad at me when I didn't practice, which happened. But one of the amazing things I think about Lois is not just her talent and her dedication to things, but the love with which she does things. Her students always felt cared for and loved. And Lois, if your child was in the paper for, you name it, I don't know, a softball tournament, whatever it was, when you came in for your lesson, there was the clipping on the piano waiting for you. Lois held the piano lessons in her home, and she also had concerts twice a year, I think? Once a year. And she would put on this amazing spread for us. Not only did she teach us and barely charge us, but she also would feed us and celebrate us. And when it came to holidays, I think when I was taking from Lois, you had upwards of 60 students, something like that. And she was in her 80s then. And Valentine's Day, all the little goodie bags were lined up when you came in, and she had a little present for every student. And same thing at Christmas. And I just want to say that I'm so grateful that you have touched the lives of so many people through your lessons and the fair and the county extension and your church. And I just want to say that I'm honored to know you as a friend and my teacher. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Doug Parton. I'm the pastor at the Christian church where Lois sort of reigns in many ways. I've been very honored to be there and to learn from her. In some of the ways that have already been mentioned, I brought a paper up here when I would send a letter in to recommend her. And the only thing that didn't come out in this was in 2005, the county extension offices have their own award system, and they awarded Lois in 2005 with the Pioneer Award. And it was for one who shows leadership in her community, who is able to show that pioneering spirit that keeps New Mexico strong. And she's a candidate for that. When I was speaking to her just before the service here, I was like, you are so well honored today. And she's like, well, I don't know if I really deserve that. And I think I've sort of heard some of that spirit from all of our candidates today. They're very humble servants. They'd rather be serving than to be talked about serving. And it is a joy to see that. When I first got to the church, Lois is that little old lady that plays the church organ. I don't know if you know anything about church culture, but there are a lot of people who want to move to a different style of music. And so she came to me from the very beginning and said, you know, if I'm ever in the way, you know, if I'm causing anyone not to come, you know, if I just can't hit all the notes right, then you let me know, because I don't want to be a hindrance to anyone. And that's sort of the spirit that she has. It's someone who's willing to say, I'm just trying to use my talents. I'm trying to use my presence and the things that God has endowed me with to bless the people around me. And she's done that in so many ways, which we've already talked about here. You know, the cards, the letters, the newspaper clippings, I was a recipient of all of that. I was one of those volunteers that she wrangled into doing something at the county, and more than gladly doing so, because she wasn't just a wrangler, she was a prime volunteer. She set the example in her own service. In fact, if I, you know, one day when I grow up, I want to be like Lois. I mean, she's sort of a role model for anyone I know. It's a delight in all those things. One of the just touching stories for me is that she knew my mother-in-law, knew my wife when she was just a little girl who grew up here. And she's always written those letters. And even though my mother-in-law now is in a memory care unit, doesn't even know who I am or those around her, Lois still sends those touching cards to her, just a touch of someone who remembers her. And it's very, very, you know, speaks so well of her. But I have to tell the truth about her as well. You know, Lois is just an ornery cuss in the very best sort of the way. She loves to tease people. She loves to be teased. She's, you know, if she can get anything on you that she can just spark a grin out of you in that sort of sly, humorous way, she's going to do it. Just sitting back here with friends, I said, you know, probably the best way we could honor Lois is we could just figure out how to get into some mischief around here. That would really honor her, because she was always that one who was delighting the people around her, and she was making them feel comfortable, and she was spurring them on to service. And so I think she's more than deserving to be a treasure for us. And one day that organ in our church is going to sit silent, because there's not a lot of organ players anymore. And we are going to miss the music of Lois.
My name is Andres Sanchez. Paula Sanchez is my mom, and I'm usually not too outspoken, but I think she would have wanted me to say something today. And so what I'll share is that during my mom's 10-month battle with cancer, it might not have been every single day, but almost every single day we got a letter in the mail for 10 months. And I don't know Lois personally, although I feel like I do on account of all those letters, and the amount of love and the amount of care is inspiring for me. And so I'm glad that my mom was honoring in demanding that she get this award, because she certainly is deserving of it. So good job, Lois.
Okay, now it's Lois's turn to come up front and say a few words and allow me to present you with your award. First, I'm going to give you a medallion so you can get in for the lunches too. And then you're going to get a copy of the certificate, which if anybody gives you any hassle about, no, you can't really be a treasurer, you can just show them this. You should, I know you will. And a copy of the portrait that Jim O'Donnell took of you. It's really nice. Can you come on over to the podium, because that's where the other mic is for the video? And just whatever you want to do.
Well, I want to thank everyone that had any responsibility on me getting this reward. And as you're doing these things down through the years, it's an education. You get so much satisfaction out of helping other people out. I can't think of anything better than to help somebody out and see the expression on their face. I've certainly been rewarded by hundreds of new friends through this, and I appreciate every one of them. I appreciate everyone here. And thank you for everyone that had a part in me getting this award, and I hope we can continue to be friends for years.
Thank you, Lois, and I hope you'll consider me one of those friends now, too. Wow, this is the fastest we've ever gotten through any ceremony, probably because we weren't allowed to have more people here. But I would like to just say a few more things. One is that eventually, when COVID is over, we're going to be moving all the portraits from Enterprise Bank over to an area in the medical center. And not that we want you all going to doctors all the time or anything like that, but maybe you'll get a chance to see them there. And I also wanted to point out, back in the back there are these big posters, and those are at the senior center, and they have pictures of all the former living treasures. And pretty soon they'll also have copies of the 3 who were honored today. And as part of our virus safety measures, the reception is going to be very different this year too. As you leave, you'll find in the lobby a box that we want you to take. Takeout, right? Lots of takeout, lots of garbage. These contain a simple sandwich, fruit, a cookie, and a small tart, along with a sparkling water. We invite you to gather in small groups. I don't know if Bernadette would allow some people to go upstairs to the tables. She says that's okay, because we didn't really plan on having rain, but it rained, and we're grateful for the moisture. But there's also areas all around the pond and Fuller Lodge and all kinds of places. If you'd like to form small groups, and just enjoy each other's company and maybe mingle, just reunite a little bit with the treasures. But we're not allowed to hug or kiss or anything like that. And I know it can be difficult. And so be sure to pick up a box on your way out. And the 2 flower arrangements that are up here, I'd like one to go to Linda and one to go to Lois. And if you need any help carrying those out, I'm sure we can get one of our board members to help you. And I just want to thank everybody again for coming and for hanging in there through COVID times and staying healthy and doing all the things that I know everybody does in this wonderful community that we live in. So thank you.